Good evening and welcome to 5 A Day with Jay. I am your host, J.R. Murdock. How are you this evening? Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad you're here. Everybody remembers their first. Way back when I was much younger, I had a learning disability, or three, one of them being dyslexia. That meant when I picked up a book, I had trouble reading. A lot of trouble. I had a lisp. I had multiple problems. Problems with my eyesight. I always didn't have the correct glasses to see the chalkboard. Yeah, chalkboard, not whiteboards, chalkboards. And so I had a lot of problems. My handwriting was atrocious, and they forced us to write in cursive. My cursive writing was illegible, so when I would take notes, it was just scribbles. You couldn't decipher it from scribbles. At any rate, I remember going to the library, and that was one of my sanctuaries. I would hide out. We had little U-shaped cubbies all along, and I would hide in the little cubby reading the dinosaur books, because for whatever reason, having dyslexia and reading a long, complicated name of a dinosaur was easier for me than reading short little words. I had trouble spelling words, and I would get letters mixed up all the time. Spelling was one of my worst subjects in elementary school. You asked me to spell something, good luck with that. But when I came to a long, complicated name like Ankylosaurus, boop, it just rolled off the tongue, boom, I could spell it with no problem. Pterodactyl, sure, why not? Brontosaurus, Brachiosaurus, boom, got it. Tyrannosaurus Rex, boom, I'm all about it. I would pick up dinosaur books and look at the pictures and just have a great time reading about dinosaurs. In similar sections, I started finding other children's books. I never really gravitated towards the Dr. Seuss. I enjoyed the Gold Key and the Disney books growing up. But as I started getting into actual books that had words in them, I gravitated towards science fiction books. One of the first ones I read was a book called Rocket Mouse, and I'm trying to track down a copy of that book. And I remember, of course, finding Beverly Clearly's motorcycle mouse. Little mouse, the motorcycle would make little putt-putt noises to make the motorcycle go. Remember Rocket Mouse? I read these books decades ago. When I got into 7th grade, that's when the rest of the library was open to me, and I could go explore books. Covers attracted my attention, and thicker books didn't attract me. I wanted thinner books, shorter books, books that I knew I would have the ability to read and finish, because I had this ability to get a big book and be like, yeah, but I wouldn't be able to read it. I would have trouble with it. So I would put it down and stop reading. One of the first books that I checked out from the library in McGregor when I was a kid was a book called Mirror Friend, Mirror Foe. And I found a copy of this book. And I don't think this book's ever been read or opened. The spine hasn't been cracked. There's no crease. This book is in mint. The copy I read was dog-eared and ratted up. This thing is in pristine condition. I'm almost thinking about buying a second copy so that I can keep this one in pristine condition. 1979, this book came out. And how geeky am I? This is before I knew what Star Trek was, before I knew who Robert Aspirin was. As I got into the 80s, I learned who Robert Aspirin was. Thieves' World, Another Fine Myth, all of these books by Robert Aspirin I read and devoured with gusto. I loved reading those books. But the other author, George Takei, I remember his name so well, and it wasn't until probably the late 80s when I started watching Star Trek with my dad that I saw his name, and I'm like, oh my gosh, George Takei, he wrote a book. And I tried tracking this book down several times throughout the years. George Takei, Sulu from Star Trek, in case you're not making the connection there. And the book, as you can see, there's a fencer on there. If you've watched Star Trek, you know that George Takei fences. So I learned a lot from this book, from different words and the way the words were used, that just clicked and made sense in my head. I couldn't tell you right now what this book was about, other than there's a sword fighting robot in it, there's a sword fighter and a swashbuckler, and he goes off and does adventures. That's about all I remember from the book. I'm sure as I read it, it will come back to me, but I've wanted to find a copy of this because I remember reading this when I was so much younger, and I've wanted to find a copy of this book for so long, and I'm so happy I found a copy. But like I said, I don't think it's ever been read. I mean, look, you pull, there's no crease. Oh, it pains me. It pains me. $5. Anyway, first novels that you read when you were younger, did you ever go track any of them down, find them, reread them? That's my plan. I plan on reading this book. Again, like I said, I know it's in pristine condition, but it's not a well sought after book. It's not like I found a first printing of Lord of the Rings or anything. Surprisingly, this was put out by Playboy Books. Back in the day, Playboy was a very lucrative publisher. They spent a lot of money. Hugh Hefner was an avid reader, and he loved purchasing short stories for his magazine. He loved publishing books. So I was kind of surprised that it was from a Playboy publisher. Again, in a high school library, but science fiction. Hey, I found it. Have you read this book? Have you read anything by Robert Asprin? This book in particular, hey, if you haven't read this one and you can find it, I'm not going to say I recommend it because, again, I don't remember much about it, but being that it's Robert Asprin, I'm thinking it's going to be a good ride. I'm excited to hop into that one. I'm reading like 15 books all at the same time. My brain works like that. I will start pounding through books like crazy sooner or later. At any rate, share with me, what are some books that you've read through the years that you've enjoyed, that you've tracked down because you're like, oh my gosh, I got to go back and reread that one. I remember tracking down, it wasn't hard, Tarnsman of Gore, John Norman. The first book is pretty good. The second book, it's okay. By the time you start getting to the third, fourth, and fifth books, he starts to follow a pattern, and that pattern is basically the subjugation of women as slaves, and men are the superiors running the planet. Gore. It gets weaker with every book, and I want to say there's 26 or 27 of those books out. He just kept cranking them out. It's like Piers Anthony with the Xanth novels. I haven't read a Xanth novel in years, but every year Piers Anthony puts out a Xanth novel. If you've read Xanth, let me know. Are they still worth picking up and checking out? I haven't read one in a long, long time. At any rate, short one this evening. Quick update. I've got more editing done. I've got 2 more books done. I'm going to try and get a third one done while this video compiles and uploads. I'll work on getting that done. Hopefully I'll have the third book done. That'll be 6. So I did 3 last night, 3 tonight. That'd be 6 books. Then I can get cranking on the other ones, get the book machine pumping and get these things done and get them ready to get out there. At any rate, tell me what you've been reading. Have you been reading anything current? Reading anything old? What you've been reading? What books you've tracked down? What attracted you to sci-fi in the first place? What were some of the first sci-fi books you read? Join me in the conversation in the comments. I would love to hear from you. I have been Jay. You have been awesome. Until next time.